working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Hello and welcome to ASEAN in Focus. I'm Maricar Velasco, delivering to you the latest news in and around the ASEAN region. On today's headlines, President Rodrigo Duterte, just like most of his counterparts in the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, skipped the ASEAN US Summit Monday. The world's biggest trade deal is likely to move forward without India for the time being, diplomats and officials said Monday, as negotiators pushed to finalize the sprawling Asian pact backed by China. President Rodrigo Duterte on Monday hailed the milestones achieved by the Association of Southeast Asian Nations and its partners in the ASEAN +3 in ensuring developments on infrastructure, among others. President Rodrigo Duterte, just like most of his counterparts in the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, skipped the ASEAN US Summit Monday. Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez III told journalists that he was informed by Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr., who represented the president to the meeting, that the summit will be among ministers. Similarly, U.S. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien represented U.S. President Donald Trump. ASEAN leaders who attended the summit are Thailand Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha, Laos Prime Minister Thongloun Sisoulith, and Vietnam Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc. Dominguez, in a briefing, said he does not consider Trump's absence in the summit as something that will affect views on U.S. stance on ASEAN.
He's missed. I don't think it affects the view of the ASEAN about the reliability of the U.S. For reliability, we had better look into their actions rather than into their presence. I suppose he has other issues that he has to address, and most of them are domestic at the moment. I think he has a slight problem with the legislature there, so let's allow him to make his choice.
President Rodrigo Duterte called on leaders of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations to not take sides so as not to suffer from geopolitical issues of major economies and worsen global uncertainties. During the 14th East Asia Summit held as part of the 35th ASEAN Summit and related summits, Duterte said the country now bids to expand the horizons of the diplomacy. He said they are for an open and inclusive regional order where the rules of law reigns and where ASEAN centrality is an essential component of the regional security architecture. Duterte vowed closer tie-up not just with countries within the region, but also those outside, such as Japan, the Republic of Korea, Russian Federation, and the Republic of India, to further solidify regional mechanisms for peace and development. He also called on the Philippines' partners to recognize the decisions of all sides. After all, the true measure of power is not coercion, but rather the ability to persuade on the strength of one's deals. Power is also the wisdom to exercise restraint even when outright domination is possible, according to Duterte. Despite the bid to protect the region, Duterte cited contributions both of the U.S. and China in regional and global developments. He, however, implored ASEAN partners against moves that will divide the region and weaken resolve to fight their rights on the South China Sea and the materialization of the Code of Conduct. He also noted the impact of the ongoing trade issues between U.S. and China, which he said might result in the revival of protectionism. The president also mentioned the need to sustain efforts towards the achievement of a lasting peace and stability in the Korean Peninsula. During the special lunch on sustainable development on Monday, Duterte called on Western economies to stop making Asia the dumping ground of their wastes. He said the Philippines, along with Malaysia and Indonesia, have received shipments tagged as recyclables from developed countries, but in reality are hazardous wastes. A U.S. official invites Southeast Asian leaders to a summit in America next year after the U.S. was accused of snubbing a regional meeting in Bangkok that U.S. President Donald Trump skipped. Several Southeast Asian leaders failed to turn up for a meeting with U.S. officials. U.S. envoy Robert O'Brien denounced Chinese intimidation in the South China Sea.
As he said in his letter, President Trump wants to assure you of the rock-solid American commitment in word and deed to our friends, allies, and partners in ASEAN. Beijing has used intimidation to try to stop ASEAN nations from exploiting their offshore resources, blocking access to $2.5 trillion in oil and gas reserves alone. These tactics go against the rules of respect, fairness, and international law. The region has no interest in a new imperial era where a big country can rule others on the theory that might makes right. America is helping our ASEAN friends uphold their sovereignty.
Much of Asia looks to the U.S. to help counter China's growing reach and power. President Trump's absence, however, is a disappointment to some in the region and may undermine the U.S. assertion that it puts a high priority on trade and other ties with the region.
I would also like to take this opportunity to offer an invitation to the leaders of ASEAN to join me in the United States for a special summit meeting at a time of mutual convenience in the first quarter of 2020. This will provide an excellent opportunity for us to broaden and deepen our cooperation on matters of great importance to the nearly 1 billion people the United States and the ASEAN nations have the privilege to represent.
Staying at the ASEAN Summit in Bangkok, Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross said after some very good conversations with automakers in the European Union, Japan, and elsewhere, the United States may not need to impose new tariffs on imported automobiles. Washington did not send top officials to the weekend ASEAN Summit, instead dispatching Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross and National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien. Monday's sparsely attended address from O'Brien stood in contrast to earlier ASEAN meetings, which had all been attended by most heads of state. Last year, President Trump also missed the ASEAN and Indo-Pacific meetings in Singapore, where he was represented by Vice President Mike Pence. In his first year in office, President Trump attended the ASEAN meeting in Manila, which was hosting the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum at the same time.
We're also engaged in a long overdue reassessment of our trade relationship with China, and we are very far along with phase one. The Trump administration is extremely engaged in and fully committed to this region. The U.S., in fact, is the largest source of FDI into the Indo-Pacific region, with a total investment at the end of last year of some $866 billion. That is far more, for example, than China's foreign direct investment in the region.
What's up, everybody? Just like snow in Las Vegas being a rare thing, so are opportunities in life. So whenever they come around, seize the moment. Tune into Digital Nest on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. only on Net 25. I'm Ahmed Santos, your EBC correspondent, always one with 25. Peace!
much for watching this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to watch our future features.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced, eagle news, because we live in interesting times.
Welcome back. On the sidelines of the ASEAN Summit in Bangkok, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said 4 of the 10 countries most affected by climate change are members of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, urging the ASEAN Summit in Bangkok to confront the world's climate emergency.
In 2050, the research has forecasted that 300 million people will be flooded by seawater in the world. And dramatically, the most vulnerable areas are exactly in Southeast Asia, in Japan, China, Bangladesh, and India. Climate change is running faster than what we are, and this is the biggest threat to the planet at the present moment, the defining issue of our time. Countries that are one of the most vulnerable areas to climate change need to give an example, need to be in the front line of carbon pricing, of stopping subsidies to fossil fuels, and of stopping the construction of new coal-powered and electricity plants in order to be able to defeat climate change and to preserve the beautiful cities like Bangkok and others that we want as a legacy to humankind forever.
He also expressed concern over the situation in Myanmar and the plight of massive numbers of refugees. While welcoming ASEAN's recent engagement with Rangoon, he flagged that it was ultimately Myanmar's responsibility to address the root causes of the crisis.
It is absolutely essential for the government of Myanmar to assume as a clear priority the reconciliation, the internal reconciliation, paving the way to address the root causes of displacement and allowing for the return, voluntary and in safety and dignity, of the refugees to Myanmar. Some steps have been done, but they are too small. We need to do much more.
The world's biggest trade deal is likely to move forward without India for the time being, diplomats and officials said Monday, as negotiators pushed to finalize the sprawling Asian pact backed by China. The Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership includes 30% of global GDP and half of the world's people. Objections by India dashed hopes of signing the deal at this weekend's Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit in Bangkok after 7 years of grueling negotiations. India has raised concerns about market access, fearing its domestic industries could be hard hit if the country is flooded by cheap made-in-China goods. The other members have agreed on the text of the draft agreement, aiming for a deal to be signed by next year. China's Deputy Foreign Minister Li Yuanqing told reporters Monday it is the 15 participating countries that have decided to move forward first. He said whenever India is ready, it is welcome to get on board. RCEP includes the 10-nation ASEAN bloc along with China, India, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand. The deal has gained new traction amid a bruising U.S.-China trade war that experts fear could drag global growth. Indian Premier Narendra Modi, who is under domestic pressure to pull out of RCEP, told the Bangkok Post over the weekend that it would create unsustainable trade deficits. Indian unions have staged protests calling for more of a say in the final deal. Echoing the deal's open-door policy, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison said Monday the text of the RCEP is done. Even without India in the mix, RCEP will be the world's largest trade pact. A diplomatic source in Bangkok told AFP India's inclusion in the deal is important to offset Beijing's the world's second biggest economy. The diplomat told reporters RCEP has better strategic value if it includes India. Without India, there is no balance. Three media sector deals were signed between ASEAN member states and China, expected to benefit journalists and media professionals in their respective states, a palace official bared on Monday. Presidential Communications Operations Office Secretary Martin Andanar said the deals between governments of ASEAN and China include communications on media policies and issues, cooperation on news coverage and materials and information dissemination that strengthens synergy between China and countries involved, and media content cooperation through co-production of films, TV series, documentaries, and new media content. Andanar welcomed the signing of the media sector deals, which he expects would help enhance the skills and capabilities of Filipino journalists and media professionals. Andanar said the media sector deals will help foster growth for each nation's respective media industry through discussions, learnings, and collaborations. The deals also aim to encourage participation in the film and TV festivals of China and the said countries and intensify cooperation in research and development in media technology and equipment production, as well as encourage education and training through exchanges and workshops for media professionals from China and ASEAN countries. He described the signing of the deals as important, especially at a time when disinformation and proliferation of fake news can harm relations between countries. Andanar said as media is responsible towards connecting and bridging people towards understanding and appreciation, undertaking these exchanges and cooperation are necessary initiatives towards building mutual trust and understanding and maximizing the potentials of mutual growth among journalists.
I am here right now at Spanish Banks, one of Vancouver's popular beaches, where you get a great view of the Vancouver skyline and the North Shore Mountains. Make sure you tune into Digital Nest every Tuesday and Thursday. I am Lukino, your EBC Canada correspondent, and I am 1 with 25.
Hello Digital Nesters, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to watch our future features.
Accurate and fair reporting. Not only from Batanes to Tawi-Tawi, but also abroad. Detailed and timely stories relevant to people all over the world. Catch all of these at Net25, your reliable source of news, entertainment, and technology updates.
Welcome back. President Rodrigo R. Duterte on Monday hailed the milestones achieved by the Association of Southeast Asian Nations and its partners in the ASEAN +3 in ensuring developments on infrastructure, among others. Referring to the President's first engagement for the day, which is during the 22nd ASEAN +3 Summit, Chief Presidential Legal Counsel and Presidential Spokesperson Salvador Espinelo said in a statement he affirmed the importance given by the Philippines on the strategic role of the APT cooperation in community-building efforts, underscoring the 65 mechanisms in place. The summit involves the 10-member regional bloc plus China, Japan, and Korea. Panelo said the President thanked the APT participants for the Master Plan for ASEAN Connectivity 2025, which is targeted to provide a seamless and comprehensively connected and integrated ASEAN through sustainable infrastructure, digital innovation, seamless logistics, regulatory excellence, and people mobility. 3 deliverables have been identified under this program so far, and this include the establishment of a rolling priority pipeline of ASEAN infrastructure projects aimed to attract more public and private investments, development of a sustainable urbanization strategy, and the study on the adoption of digital technology among micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. Relatively, the President also thanked China for its commitment to support the Brunei Darussalam Indonesia Malaysia Philippines East ASEAN Growth Area, which was launched in Davao City in 1994. The President noted that this sub-regional economic cooperation provides a venue for the development of far-flung areas like Mindanao. Meanwhile, Duterte cited Japan's expanded partnership for quality infrastructure that helps ASEAN countries construct state-of-the-art infrastructure network. And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Maricar Velasco and I am one with 25.
明日もまだ降るし